Joining us is Senate Budget Chair and a close ally of President Trump, Chairman Lindsey Graham. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. So how did President Trump get us here on the doorstep of regional peace barely 2 years after Hamas killed over 1,000 Israelis?
Well, there are two things happened. The Israeli Defense Forces have obliterated Hamas as we know it. Militarily, they've been hurt badly. They're up against the wall in a box. So you have to credit the IDF for weakening Hamas. But the lion's share of the credit goes to President Trump. I said during the campaign of 2024, Trey, everybody wants Trump policies. I like his policies, but I don't like the way he talks. I said back then, and I'll say it now, there are no Trump policies without Donald Trump. The reason we're about to have the hostages released, I hope and pray, is a couple things. Iran is afraid of Trump. The Arabs and the Israelis trust Trump. That's why we're about to have these hostages released. But I want to say something very clear. Jake Sullivan was bragging about the state of the Mideast, and 8 days later we had October the 7th. We're a long way away from achieving peace. I hope we get the hostages out tomorrow, but I'm waiting to see if Hamas really does disarm. I'm not so sure they will. Who takes over? We can't have Hamas leading Gaza ever again. And you will never have peace as long as Hezbollah is alive as a terrorist organization in Lebanon. So what's the impediments to peace down the road? Iran's proxies like the Houthis and the Hezbollah, and whether or not Hamas will actually live up to its part of the agreement. But as to President Trump, he is the man above all leaders in the world. Literally no one in the world could have done this but President Donald J. Trump. And to his team, Witkoff and Jared and the whole team, well done.
All right, Chairman, you put your finger on it. Peace is fragile. What should we be looking for in the days and weeks to come to ensure that this agreement actually holds?
This is a really good question. Put Hamas disarmament on a timetable. Don't give them forever to play around and rearm. As Israel pulls back, I'm afraid they will rearm. So put them on a timetable, give them a date certain to disarm, to make that decision, and have a system that would verify they did disarm. When it comes to the future of Gaza, they have to completely be driven out of the picture, written out of the picture, just like the Nazis were after World War II. And if you don't deal with Hezbollah, Iran will have Hezbollah do what Hamas did as we get close to peace. Talking about Saudi Arabia recognizing Israel maybe this time next year. If Hezbollah is not dealt with and disarmed themselves, they will rise up and undercut peace. So you got to get rid of all the proxies of Iran, Hezbollah and the Houthis. And here's the good news. The people of Lebanon have asked for the Hezbollah to give up their weapons, to disarm. So that's major progress. So there's a possibility next year that all this can fall into place, but it's got to start with Hamas honoring the commitment they made, which is to disarm and give up control of Gaza. Time will tell.
All right, before I let you go, I got to switch gears and ask you about something else. Here's a snapshot of a recent Judiciary Committee hearing, and then I'll ask you about it on the other side.
You're the Attorney General. This will be your decision. Will you support?
You don't have to tell me what is my decision and what is not my decision. I said you can talk to Director Patel.
You don't have to try to.
You think you've got a gotcha with Tom Home and our borders czar,
excuse me,
who's been out there fighting for our country since Donald Trump took office.
I'm trying to ask a question. Regular order, please. Will you support that request?
Will you apologize to Donald Trump for trying to impeach
the answer is you won't support that request.
After you now know that Joe Biden tried to cover up Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine.
The Senate sounds like the House used to sound. All right, your phone records were accessed by Special Counsel Jack Smith. I got to believe the Senate is going to bring Merrick Garland, Chris Wray, and Jack Smith in because I want them to testify on what crime exactly they were investigating, what factual predicate existed to access your toll records. I mean, you talk to a lot of important people on the phone. Who is Jack Smith to analyze who you talk to and for how long?
Well, this is a really important moment in our constitutional democracy. In September of 2023, 30 months after January the 6th, apparently Jack Smith, through FBI agents, went to the phone company that I use and 7 other senators to monitor who we called, where we were located, and how long we talked to them. Now, in January of 2021, I was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, trying to find out whether to certify the election and what to investigate, if anything. So the idea that the executive branch would try to monitor my phone calls doing my job as a United States Senator obliterates separation of powers. And to this idea about people should be looking at Comey, that's crazy. 5 years ago, I went on television right after he testified. I don't believe him when he says he doesn't remember the intel community told him that they had evidence that Hillary Clinton was trying to cook this up to suggest that Trump was an agent of Russia, that it was coming from the Clinton campaign. And we all know the Steele dossier was a piece of garbage. And he said, Comey, if I knew then what I know now, I'd have never used it to get a warrant against Carter Page. I believe he did know then what he did now. So I'm doing my job. These other senators were doing their job. I'm going to do everything under my power to find out what happened. And if it takes a lawsuit to prevent this in the future, I will bring it. It's a chilling moment when a rogue special counsel who's politicized to the core was trying to find out who I was calling and why I was calling them as a sitting United States Senator doing my job. We're not going to let this go. And as to Jack Smith, he tried to release his brief accusing Trump of a crime 10 days before the election, violating every protocol of the Department of Justice. His investigation, I think, was political. Within 3 days of Trump announcing I'm running for president in 2022 for the 2024 cycle, within 3 days, charges were brought, and within 8 months, he was charged with 91 felony counts in 4 jurisdictions after he said, I'm running for president. This, in my view, was an effort to destroy his chances to get elected in 2024. And when Jack Smith was looking at my phone records and that of other senators, I think he broke the law, and I think he needs to be held accountable. And I think those who brought this about need to pay, and pay big.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to remind you to be mad when he comes before your committee, but I think you're mad enough that I don't have to remind you. You're going to do it anyway. Lindsey Graham from the great state of South Carolina, thank you for joining us.
I'm pretty pissed about this.
It's outrageous, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's outrageous.